What are the four different ways that you're going to do your revenue recognition?
The four main methodologies that I have, what is generally in project management called earned value, which is essentially you could think of that as percent complete. So what percentage of this work has been completed is the first is time versus timeline. And this is the way that most of our reporting systems at Parakeeto work by default. We have a start date and we have an end date for a project. And then we essentially assume that in a fairly linear fashion, revenue is going to be earned for that unit of work between the start and the end date. So time versus timeline is one. Time versus budget is another. If I had a 500-hour budget on a project and I had used 250 hours of that, we would assume that we were 50% done. Again, the problem with that is we might be under budget, we might be over budget, so you might not be exactly perfect on that. But again, as a heuristic, it might be generally accurate. The third would be more of like a burn down. And so this could be useful if you use Agile or one of these kinds of methodologies to scope the project out in terms of like, what is the size of each of the tasks that need to get done? And then you would be relying on project management tools to figure out, okay, we have 200 story points here worth of work to get done, and we've completed 100 of those story points. Therefore, we assume we're about 50% through the project. And then the last one, which is actually one of the most common and funny enough, one of the most reliable and simplest to get started on, is just a subjective user input. And so at the end of every month, you sit down with your project management team or your project leads, and they might look at sort of all of those signals and then sort of stick their finger in the air and feel which way the breeze is blowing and say, this project feels like it's about 45% done. And so you punch that number into a spreadsheet, you hand it to your accountants, and then they earn revenue based on that set of assumptions. And so again, all of those have their flaws, but the goal is to, again, get to a directionally accurate sense of how much of the value of this project have we earned to date.